Welcome to Tata Literature Live Business Shastras. This is the fourth in our series where we introduce management experts, business leaders to give us insights from their experience, their learnings. And this has been a hugely successful series. We've had record audiences. So I'm grateful for everyone because they're joining in. This time I want to give special thanks to the Titan and Tata family members who come in big numbers, including, I believe, a lot of directors who have responded to Harish Bhatt's invitation to listen in today. Today's discussion is based on a book on Titan, which is called Titan Inside India's Most Successful Consumer Brand. To talk about it, we have the man himself, Bhaskar Bhat, the former managing director of Titan, was responsible for a lot of its success. He is now a director of Tata Sons. Vinay Kamath, the author of the book, who's also a journalist. And to conduct it all is Ambi Parameswaran, independent brand coach and best-selling author. If you look carefully, behind him is a book about brands. So, Ambi, over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Anil, for the introduction.
I just want to add, that at the end, for about 15 minutes, we'll have a Q&A with the audience. And Tata Starbucks is giving vouchers for the 5 best questions. So, okay, now roll on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Anil, for the introduction and for the invitation to moderate today's discussion. Good evening to all the viewers there. Welcome to Tata Literature Live, Business Shastras session on Titan story. What an amazing story it is, from an idea that was born in the early 1980s to the company which was set up in 1984, to the plant that was set up in 1986, to the first watch sold in March 1987, to the millionth watch sold in April 1989, just 2 years, million watches, to the entry into Europe in 94, to the launch of Tanishq jewelry in 96, to eyewear launch in 2007, to the perfume launch in 2013. A lot of things have been happening in this company. Mr. Xerxes Desai, his era started in 84, ended in 2002, when Bhaskar Bhat took over and ran the company so very successfully till 2019. The company hit a record market cap of $10 billion in November 2017. 10 billion, right? And is today the second most valuable company in the Tata Group. Second most valuable company in the Tata Group. Sales revenue 21,000 crores and the profit after tax of almost 1,500 crores. Amazing story. Bhaskar has seen the company from day one. As the book says, he was the employee number 1 of this company. He joined the enterprise when it was a dream in May 1983 and has seen it blossom into a huge corporation. And the book is full of interesting anecdotes. And let me read out one. At Secretary of Government of India apparently told Mr. Minu Modi, then a Tata Sons director, "Take it from me, Mr. Modi, the Tatas will never make watches." Well, ma'am or sir, whoever it was, today Titan watches are sold not only in India, but in 30 countries around the world. How did all this happen? And Bhaskar was there watching all this happen and making a lot of these things happen. And we can ask him to tell the story. It will probably take him in his own style, probably a few days to entertain us. But he has done a very smart thing, Bhaskar. You've done a very smart thing. When a veteran journalist, Vinay Kamath, from Hindu Business Line approached Bhaskar with an idea of doing a book on Titan, Bhaskar gave an instant okay. And he also allowed Vinay access to the multiple resources which were available at Titan. He opened the doors for him to meet Titanians, as they are called, and also a whole number of former Titanians. And this book apparently took 3 years. And this is a book. It took 3 years in the making. And when I was telling me, he must have interviewed probably 100 people before the book got completed. It's an amazing book called Titan Inside India's Most Successful Consumer Brand. It's not just a story about a great brand in the making. In fact, there is a chapter on the advertising, but a lot of more stuff on how a great company is born, an Indian company with an Indian dream. Uh, it's about Titan. It's about Titanians, how they built Titan, and how a lot of Titanians got built in the process. So I'm going to be throwing questions almost randomly between Bhaskar and Vinay, and we'll talk you through the book and how it is born. So let me start with Bhaskar first. Tell us, how does it feel, Bhaskar, to be out of Titan? What's the sense? A sense of job well done, sense of satisfaction? How do you feel?
Well, there's an old saying in Titan that you can get out of Titan, but Titan never gets out of you. But having said that, I think I will break this into a long answer. Uh, there are three roles that one plays, I guess, when you're working. As a professional, and I retired as managing director, CEO of the company. As a professional, certainly I must admit it's a sense of relief, emancipation, and positive dissatisfaction. To
Positive
explain what I
dissatisfaction. Yeah, well, what is that?
well, I'll tell you, dissatisfaction actually is a wrongly conceived word. Dissatisfaction drives demand. It in fact drives all the time desire. You're dissatisfied with your current state, and therefore you want to move. Relief and emancipation, certainly, because the release is from the multiple pressures of managing a large corporation, and no complaints, but as a responsibility at the top of not just governance. You're sitting there, and I used to think that I used to report downwards. I had responsibility towards the large number of people who were associated with the company, and therefore the main thing is, you were planning and executing, planning and executing, planning and executing. Now that pressure is, it's unlocked. So to that extent, time is now my own, my energies are my own, and no regrets. When it was for Titan, it was wonderful, and it's wonderful when it's for me. That was as a professional. But as an employee, I mean, one feels that 33 years that I spent in that company, the greatest feeling I'm left with is of having built so many personal friendships and relationships that I can cherish forever. And I'm sure I can leverage forever in terms of, countrywide, in the Titan offices, the associates that have been, associated with Titan, but not just the business association. It's a friendship that has developed, and I'll cherish forever. But as Bhaskar Bhat, the person, I'm very, very happy. And that is where this positive dissatisfaction I'm talking about. I continue to be dissatisfied with what I know. That means I don't know. Basically, there's so much more to know. And that there is a long list staring at me. When I retired, I wrote down what all I want to do. And I'm happy not even the first one has been checked yet. So, oh my God, wonderful every day that I have so many things to do. Wow. And my life is not going to be wasted. Whatever it is, they may be trivial things, learning a few things, but it's there. So the dissatisfaction drives me saying, I must do this. So those are my three, as Bhaskar Bhat, as an employee, and as a professional, are my feelings.
Great. So now let me come to this. Now we get into the book and we'll start talking a bit about the book, Bhaskar. What was your reaction when Vinay approached you with an idea of the book? Many Tata insiders have written books. Mr. Gopalakrishnan written so many wonderful books. Mr. Ramudurai wrote this engaging book on the TCS story. Harish has written this fantastic book, Tata Log, which capturing several of the Tata company initiatives and stories. So when I contacted you that idea, why did you go with a non-Tata person when so many of you at Tatas are very good at writing books and such engaging books? And did you give him a brief? Did you tell him what to write, what not to write, and don't turn that corner? Huh?
No, actually, Vinay approached, he triggered the idea of the book. And the reason, frankly, only now, when I think back I think there was a great comfort with Vinay, first of all. But one logical reason and one illogical. The illogical is the comfort, that one felt. The logical was he had been associated with this company since the beginning, and he almost had become a Titanian himself. So to that extent, he is an insider. He
Vinay, show
was
the Titan.
following.
Are you wearing a Titan watch? Show it, show it, show
Yeah,
it.
Oh,
yeah.
he's got the oldest Titan watch, the newest Titan watch,
I'm
the
wearing a
many
new one.
Titan watches. So since the company was Titan Watches to Titan Industries to Titan Company, he has followed the company. So therefore, in many ways, he knew the company perhaps better in terms of research than some of us, because when you're inside the company, there are many blind spots. So the logical reason was he would be best, but I don't think Vinay can answer it better whether we constrained him saying do this, don't do this, and all that. But certainly we came to an understanding of what this book ought to be, not just a historical, statement of the journey. It was something else, and I think Vinay can say that a little better because I was very passionate about that subject, but Vinay captured it extremely well.
Oh yeah, I think it's absolutely fascinating book, and I don't know how many people he interviewed, uh, and the new concept on corporate histories is about what they call oral history, and I see that here. So many people, so many real dialogues. It's fantastic. So congrats, Vinay,
Thank
for
you.
a fantastic read. Now tell us how this book is different from the usual corporate biographies which are getting published almost by the week, uh, and
Yeah.
also how is it different with the other Tata books?
Yes. So, Ambi, when I set out to actually discuss with Bhaskar on the book initially, um, we had decided that the book should be on the stories of the people of Titan. And that was a good direction to give because, as you know, Titan is such a well-researched company. There's so much of analysis on Titan. There's so much of literature on Titan. But I said, look, I don't want to write another financial analysis of Titan. That's already done, pretty much done and dusted. And so I said, look, why don't I uh, look at the stories of the people of Titan who made Titan. So, uh, so actually, in 1989, I was the first to had an extensive interview with Mr. Xerxes Desai for this magazine I worked for, Business World. We had a cover story uh, on the success of Titan because it was an instant success at launch. So I had all that.
Hold
I
it.
had.
Hey,
Huh?
Vinay, they sold 17 watches the first day at the
That is in
Safina,
Safina Plaza.
Safina Plaza. 17. And they sold 350 watches the first year. First month, right? 350 watches the first month.
First month. First month.
Yeah. So you've been following them from then onwards, right? Yeah. Sorry, continue.
So. So I decided. So since I had all those business world magazines with me, I had all the literature, and again in 1991, I had followed that up with another story on Titan. So luckily, I'd archived all those magazines, so it was all there with me. So I set out to talk to people, and then discovered um, that the initial years of Titan were so fascinating. I mean, the company never came to be actually if the government had its way and if uh, Xerxes Desai and another co-founder Anil Manchanda and Minu Modi had kind of given up. Look, let's pick up some of the product and go on. So the government is not allowing us to go ahead with this product. But they persevered, and the fascinating thing about the start of Titan is the fact that Xerxes Desai studied economics and philosophy at Oxford. Anil Manchanda was a statistics master's,
Modi was an accountant, and they were getting into a technology product. I think that was amazing, which they, absolute gumption to actually go ahead and start a watch company. So that was it. So I just talked and talked to people. Of course, it was quite despairing in those moments because you ended up talking to people and had a 30,000 word transcript and you're wondering what to do with it. But anyway, I sat and sifted through it, coming in on Sundays to work in office when it was very quiet, and finally got it out of the way. And I'm glad that people have appreciated this genre of writing.
Yeah, in fact, I was telling Vinay that before this session started at about 4:45, I started reading the book, and I forgot I had to log in at 5:15 because it is so engrossing, and I started recognizing so many names there. Biju, of course, EK, Ravi, Mr. Ravikant there, and so many people. So tell me, Vinay, what were the 2 or 3 enduring stories that you remember from the research you've done on the book?
I think the most enduring conversations I had was with Mr. Xerxes Desai. I had, I think, about 3 lengthy conversations, and then I thought, look, he was getting tired, so I thought, okay, I'll come back and speak to you and all that. And one enduring comment I got from him was, I mean, it was kind of semi-tragic actually, because I was sending him my initial drafts of the book I was writing, and he was clarifying facts, and then for a long time I couldn't do anything because my mom died. I was kind of distracted, and then I sent him a mail saying, "Sir, Mr. Desai," I call him Xerxes actually. He insisted on me calling Xerxes. I said, "Xerxes, I've kind of sidetracked, but I'm still on the book. I'm still around." So he sent me a message saying, "You may be around, but I don't know about me."
Wow.
And 2 weeks from that message, he passed away.
Wow.
I was so stunned. It was almost prophetic.
Wow.
So that was, I mean, it was quite saddening for me. That was a moment I would probably never forget. But the conversations with him was, I mean, there were other things about his life, He started working at the Taj, and he was project manager. And then some of the iconic hotels like Fort Aguada, the Taj Coromandel in Chennai, and even the Taj Bombay, the reconstruction of it, he was involved as the project manager. I mean, not many know about that side of his life. Everything was about Titan. So I think there were 3 phases in his life. One was with Taj Hotels when he came back, when he got selected for the TAS, and then it was his stint at the Sitco, the Bombay development, New Ashi development. The initial plan was done by, he was project manager for that. Not many know that. I mean, the New Bombay project was initiated by him, I mean, along with many other officials. And then, of course, actually, it was 4 phases. Then it was Tata Press. And then it was Titan. So I think with many phases in life, I think that was very enduring, to talk to him about all these phases. And he had a very lovely sense of humor. He was such a wonderful conversationalist. And like Bhaskar said, you always hang on to his word, how you pronounce words, and then make sure you use it right the next time.
Yeah.
And his language is so precise. There's one anecdote in the book. I think Ashok Sharath told me that, and it was a card to somebody's, to the wife. It was I think, Watches ad when there was a small concert being played for the wife, and he writes a card to my dearest wife. So he wrote back very pithily saying, "So how many wives does he have?" So they were stunned. What? He has only one wife. Then it should be to my dear wife. I mean, why write to my dearest wife? So he was a stickler for the precise word. I'm sure had he been alive, the book would have taken a different course. I'm sure he would have made for a lot many other corrections.
Yeah, he would have made you made your life miserable by pointing out so many mistakes in the book, probably.
Yeah,
Ambi, do you know, he used to proofread in Tata Press. That's when I first met him. I mean, forget the spellings, commas and full stops, everything. He had this typical turquoise blue ink with which he would proofread and correct. So, before you send him any draft, you have to be 100% sure that you were satisfied with the grammar as well as the punctuation.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Let me get to Bhaskar. Bhaskar, you spoke about Xerxes, and Can you tell us something about some incident which may be etched in your memory about Titan, about what makes Titan Titan, what makes a Titanian Titanian, and you have a great leadership development culture in the company. And I was reading that your latest management team, which has taken over after you moved out, has been with the company for 20 years. I mean, this is amazing. So tell us something about that.
Yeah, Ambi, I'll tell you two incidents. They're not incidents, two stories perhaps, which are 20 years apart, and or maybe 18 years apart, and that perhaps answers the second part as well as the first part. In 2002 or 2001 December, because of the situation we were in, and we were actually looking at Mr. Desai retiring in March of 2002. We had 3 months to go, and it was a very bad economic performance. We called it 9/11 because we had in 9 months we had 11 lakhs of profit, and we said, this can't be. The founder of our company.
Before 9/11, after the real 9/11.
No, this was 2001, so much
okay.
before. We called it 9/11 much later. But so there was this is what Titan and Titanians are all about. Company first, ourselves next kind of thing. So we launched a program called, even today it is remembered, it's called Mission Impossible, MI 316. 316, I remember, was the number of crores that we must do in the next 3 months and make a profit. You won't believe it, Ambi. I mean, we had made 11 lakhs and we ended up, Titanium just applied themselves, saying this has to be done. This is his last quarter. We did 18 crores of profit. Forget about everything else. And I remember calls coming in, we used to say you can cut cost or you can increase the sales. I mean, everything, apply yourselves. And there were competitions and usual stuff, no? There would be guys who would write to me saying, sir, I'm entitled to go by first class train, but I went by bus and saved so much. We would tell them, just send all your initiatives and, all the savings. There would be some prizes and so on. Things like that. People were proud of saving 150 rupees, 200 rupees, etc. That same thing, Venkat and his team today have agreed or contributed with a pay cut because of COVID, of a substantial amount, because that money should go to the employees of associates of Titan who are in dire straits thanks to COVID. So it is the human connection with your associates and with the people who work for those associates. Now, that is Titan and Titanian in behavior. Both, I'm saying, company first is one. The second is people first, which is, that for us, people matter. People as people, not as human capital or human resources, just as human beings. And whether you're working for a redistribution stockist or a franchisee in a remote corner, you still are representing Titan. You're serving this company. And if you're in dire straits, we are there, not just as a company, as individuals. That is the second thing. And of course, customer centricity, Titan is quite obsessive about, I'm not talking in a mechanical manner. Any call from a customer in any part of the company, people feel pained. If it's a complaint, people will go out of their way to sort it out. I believe these are not process driven. These are cultural in Titan. And the last thing is, there is this phrase we have, which is unconditional positive regard for people. I mean, it connects to the first one. It is unconditional, positive regard for people. I think these are things that you only when you're in Titan you experience those.
Fantastic. Okay, so let me now continue asking Bhaskar this slightly tough question. Normally corporate biographies are almost hagiographical in nature. They keep singing rah 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 rah, what a great company, what a great company, what a great company, and this book is this book, again, I'm showing the cover to those of you who not registered. This book is somewhat different because it talks about the struggle the company has had, especially with the jewelry business. And now, by the way, jewelry contributes to what, 77-80% of the company. And I just wanted Bhaskar to delve into that. Initially you were told you can't make watches. And then, a lot of people believed that no one in India is going to buy a quartz watch, which requires a battery change every year, right? So that was the first battle. That was one. And then you again jump into the deep end, into something, the jewelry business, right? And Mr. Xerxes Desai had his own vision on jewelry, and you inherited a uh, tough business, partly because of jewelry, partly because of if you had not got into jewelry, would your future have been different? And what lessons would you derive from that?
Well, again, I go back to I think the jewelry business. Yes, there was cynicism within as well as outside, but I think the I in Titan, which is TITAN, is it's about the belief, the I in the belief as well. Uh, the if jewelry had not been there, what would Titan have been? Your answer to your question is there's a one fundamental behavior of Titan, which is somebody called a journalist actually called Titan a restless company.
Hmm.
Continuously wanting to do something new. The restlessness drives the company forward, including the people. Okay. And therefore, culturally allowing them in a way to make mistakes and explore. So if you were to ask me, some people have painted the European venture of Titan as a big failure. Okay. But coincidentally, Europe and jewelry were conceived at the same time. Now, had Europe succeeded and jewelry failed, you know, we would have accorded all the, kudos to Europe and said, what a mistake jewelry was. But I think the fundamental was we pursued with Europe for several years and then realized that it was not worth, and primarily as a financial investment, we were bleeding a lot. But jewelry, from the belief that the Indian woman is going to change, and we had a great team. I think if you were to ask me, belief is one, but the belief is sitting in people, and therefore the leadership team that took over. There were many changes in jewelry and turned around the business from a loss making for 7 years to today the most glorious of the company businesses, the largest certainly. I believe it is fundamentally driven. Certainly, the size of the market, all that is fine. But the business model of jewelry is so differentiated compared to what existed at that time and what most jewelers pursue, uh, is what was conceived by the people, by the leadership, starting from Mr. Desai, everyone. But I think that collective, development, a conversion of a dream into a business and a business model and then profits is what Titan is very good at and continuously dreaming. Therefore, eyewear, fragrances, forget that. Precision engineering, which has nothing to do in a way with the lifestyle business, was a problem that was converted.
Yeah, we'll come to your favorite topic on precision engineering, but let me jump to Vinay. Vinay, any amusing incidents you came across which you want to share with the viewers, which may not be in the book or may be in the book? Something.
Uh, I think the amusing incidents were actually mostly from conversations with Mr. Desai. Um, so he talked about his initial Taj days when he was assistant to Colonel Leslie Sawhney, who was, I think, Mr. Giardi's brother-in-law, if I'm right. And um, so I think he wanted a project manager for the renovation of the Taj and all that. And so in Mr. Desai's word, he said he looked at the office peon and said, "Oh, he won't do." And he looked at somebody else. He said he won't do. He looked at Desai standing there and said, "Okay, you be the project manager." And he said, "I didn't know anything from a beam to an to a column." So and he made me project manager, but I couldn't say no to him. So I think that was quite an amusing thing. But of course, it wasn't related to the book, so I couldn't really put it in. So that was funny. A lot of other little things which Desai said. I mean,
So
offhand, I don't recall, but
Bhaskar did not amuse you with his mimicry of Mr. Desai?
no, no. Though he's a great mimic. I'm sure you. Not many know that Ambi was ragged by Bhaskar at the IIT Madras hostel. So Ambi knows all about Bhaskar's mimicry. So maybe
Well, we
Bhaskar
had
after,
language also, which is very different. So
yeah,
let's get into that.
more colorful, I'm sure.
No, but I think people don't know Bhaskar was a great mimic, and in the Godavari hostel, he used to lead our efforts at winning the entertainment competitions. So he has made me play the role of a dog, monkey, I don't know what all on stage. Yeah. But it was worth it because we used to win the awards every year. Every year we used to win the best entertaining hostel award. So, Bhaskar, now I want to
Yeah.
come to a good segue into IIT. Now, you're an engineer, I'm told, from the best IIT in India, IIT Madras. Okay?
Conflict of interest.
Anyway, so I'm sure you have some passion project inside Titan that you want us to hear about, the Titan engineering business you wanted to talk about.
I wouldn't just talk about the engineering business. It's a very well kept secret that Titan is a really good manufacturing company. We have made watches, we make our own jewelry, we make our own lenses, we make our own frames for spectacles, and that capability was developed early.
You're
And
a
again, I give
Atmanirbhar company.
Atmanirbhar, that's true. But at the same time, very business oriented in the sense it was always make or buy. If you can make it cheaper and better and better quality, fine. Otherwise, buy. So we have a great relationship with China, Hong Kong, Switzerland, Japan, the whole world, and vendors. But Mr. Desai, as Vinay said, not an engineer, not a manufacturing person, to be able to attract the best and inspire them to put up world-class manufacturing facilities and, rise to world-class levels was what made Titan a manufacturing company. And the story of engineering, the engineering business really was when we realized in 2002 that there were parts of the watchmaking plant which were NPAs. But typical Titan style, we said we will not let this go. There is capability there are people there. So we challenged that group and precision engineering was born. It was not doing well for the earlier years, but it was still, again, very Titan like. The whole company supported, saying they're doing some very interesting things. We don't know what they're doing, but they're doing very interesting things. So right now it's into automation and aerospace component manufacturing and so on. And it's a separate subsidiary called T Titan Engineering and Automation Limited. But that apart, the jewelry manufacturing, watches, of course, is well known. We make we sell at 18 million watches. We make our own movements, cases, etc. But jewelry, it's a transformed manufacturing facility. It's world class, and some of the innovations in jewelry are first time in the world. The diamond sorting and so on is amazing stuff. Therefore, it's not just that engineering business. I'm talking about manufacturing, and to that extent, if you ask me, the somewhere the engineering, not the knowledge of engineering, that engineering can make a difference to a company.
It's very good. Sometimes people say you engineers go and do MBA, you're losing out engineering. But here is you can like you said, you can take a guy out of IIT, but you can't take IIT out of a guy, right? I mean, I'm talking of all IIT, and somewhere that technology orientation probably gave you that passion to pursue this. So thank you, Bhaskar. Now let me go to Vinay. You meet, as a business journalist in one of the leading uh, business papers, you meet a lot of business leaders almost every day. Uh, and by your own admission, Titan is a rare jewel. What makes it a rare jewel in your own yardstick?
Yeah. So since I mean, to just backtrack a little, I did the Triton story because there was so much of a story in it because of, yeah, for a journalist, bad news is good news, and then you looked at all the trials and tribulations that Titan faced, and uh, I mean, not many of this generation, even know that Mr. Xerxes Desai was the founder, nor do they know that Titan's history, that the struggle when watches the struggle in Europe, and today they look at it as an enormously successful company.
And
Uh,
mind you, Vinay, just to come in, mind you, Titan did all this with their own resources. It was not as if, that you were getting a VC to write $100 million check for you every
yes,
other month.
absolutely. In fact, I think at various points, I think Titan was also constrained because they were growing with debt because they couldn't raise equity because its partner Tidco refused to dilute its shares even if the Tatas wanted to buy it out, and they couldn't bring in more equity to
But
fuel the
Vinay, there I
company.
must
So,
just add a small point.
yeah,
I think throughout the company has had the good fortune of having a great board. The board has been always supportive, challenging all the time, but supportive. So it's still a joint venture, and Titco and Tata. I mean, through those difficult times, the people in the board understood that this company meant well. It took some wrong decisions, but that's part of being in business, and therefore we've had fabulous engagement with the board. Sorry, go
in
on.
No,
fact, when Tanishq
therefore, just
managed,
to add to
sorry,
that, just to add to that, it's such a rare example to see a joint venture continuing for what, 30, almost 40 years so
yeah.
successfully. So it calls for a lot of maturity of management on both sides, both the Tata side, the board, like Bhaskar said, and of course from the Titco side. Yeah, sorry, when I continue.
No, also when I think when the Tanishq team was getting a lot of flack about the jewelry business, it was actually the Tidco nominee. I don't know who that was then, who actually said it will succeed, bro. See all those jewelry companies in Pondi Bazaar and Panagal Park in T Nagar, they're doing so well. Why can't Titan do well? So they were very supportive in those days. And the other thing was which which stood out at Titan is not probably now a lot of the senior management is retiring. Bhaskar retired, and a lot of Ravi Kant is retired, but all of them stayed with the company for the entire careers without shifting jobs, and so there's a lot of continuity in it, and a lot of people knew the entire history of the company, and so it was very good to actually talk to them because they recalled how the company grew, all the trials they faced, and so that kind of stood out for me during the absorption of the story. So I think that way Titan is a different company, a lot of innovation, a lot of spirit and humor also, I think, in Titan.
Yeah, what with a mimic as a MD.
Yeah.
Okay, coming to you, Bhaskar. Uh, Organizational transformation today is the buzzword. People, every company is facing the post-COVID future, and you faced a lot of kind of near-death experience at Titan. You had the Mission Impossible you spoke about, and there was something I was told called
Future shock.
future
Future
shock.
shock.
That brought back Titan literally from the brink. Any lesson you want to share to the young business leaders who are watching this, who are facing really a VUCA? We've been using this VUCA world for about 10 years. Now we are really in a VUCA world, right? So any lessons?
Well, I first of all, the future shock that Venkat and team are facing are 100 times bigger than the future shock that we were. So all the best to those guys. But yeah, I think two lessons, Ambi. I would say that, if there is anyone, I'm talking now of a consumer oriented company, perhaps even others, B2B companies, if your eyes, your heart, your mind, your entire company is not focused on that consumer, where she is going, what the needs are, how the needs are changing, that is the most important. Today you believe that, a whole 5-year plan which is on Excel, and numbers that have been generated out of various databases, a number doesn't buy.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
an Aadhaar card doesn't buy. The person who owns the Aadhaar card buys. A credit card doesn't buy. The credit person who owns the credit. Now, understanding, I'll give you the example of Raga, Fast Track, Tanishq itself. We read the jewelry business wrong, when we entered only with the diamond jewelry. But we were sure that if we kept our ear to the ground, understood where the customer was going, we'd get it right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say, it is still, guys like you and me will talk about it. Looks like a sermon that, customer, 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 but it is becoming even more important because today you can digitally connect with the customer. You can influence the customer digitally, and you can analyze behavior through AI and whatever else. So it is getting better. At the same time, it's getting more challenging because that customer is getting influenced by all this. So that single-minded, putting the customer at the center. The other is that all this technology, nothing can be delivered if you don't have the right talent, and that talent which is committed, which puts company ahead of themselves, which is, you want the company to flourish, and in that flourishing company, you will flourish, has to be culturally built. And the last thing I don't want to wish youngsters with bad luck, but the lessons we learned from jewelry and the pain in Europe, the early failures in the precision engineering business, Raga, is early failure is actually in a way a gift, because you then go back to the drawing board and figure out what doesn't work, what works, what to improve. Early success makes you think that everything that you did was right, and therefore you don't do any soul searching. Jewelry has become so good, so big. I think one of the reasons was it didn't work at all in the beginning. So every bit was revisited, that it was not only diamond jewelry, we had to do plain gold jewelry, that we had to do outsourcing, not just in-house manufacturing. So many things were rewritten.
I think initially you had 18 karat gold as well, right?
18 karat diamond, therefore,
Yeah.
and not 22 karat plain gold jewelry. So I would say these three things: customer focus, people orientation, not people, I'm human orientation, and this bit about learning from your mistakes, uh, and of course today application of technology. But the last thing which has made Titan really succeed is continuing to dream, that restlessness, and that today Tanishq sells in the smallest of towns, and it's growing. That, to set up the store itself, today people would have said, some more stores in Bombay, some more stores in Delhi. Look what's happening during COVID. What's happening?
Small
Those
cities
stores
are
in the
buzzing.
smaller towns are recovering faster than the big towns.
Yeah, true.
It's a big asset.
So great. I think you said something very interesting. This whole concept of failing fast and failing, it's you fail fast, you pick up, and simple principle of whatever design thinking, of course, is to fail fast and learn and move. And Bhaskar, one last question to you before I go to Vinay, and then we have a lot of audience questions coming up. What is the future of wristwatches from your point of view?
I think, Ambi, there is this view that wristwatches have lived the current in the form that we know are fading. But I have a very different view, and not saying they are growing and they're the category to invest in. But there is a certain role that the wristwatch played at that time when we entered In fact, we redefined it from a timekeeping device to an accessory, lifestyle, gift, and so on and so forth. There is a certain relationship which a person has with his wristwatch, and those who actually love wristwatches and they become collectors, and so there is a certain aesthetic to the wristwatch. So it is no, I don't wear this watch just to see the time. I just like the watch, and it is like a lifestyle product. So that will continue, and people are paying extremely unreasonable premiums for the, even today 67% of the turnover of the world of watches comes from Switzerland, and they make only 15% of the by volume, and they're Swiss brands. Not only that, it includes Swatch, which is a mass market brand. Yeah. Therefore, there is still, but what Titan has done is converted watches into watches and wearables. So that is where it is going. So you own the real estate of the wrist, and therefore connecting to your consumer through the wrist, because the brand is still well liked, and people may not just buy your analog watch. Everybody may not, but you'll be surprised. Online, people are still buying the old type of watch, and they are still hankering after the new age wearable. And don't forget one more thing: fast track. That youth customer should have migrated to mobile phones and not bought watches long back. But it's a thriving brand within the watch business. For what? Because of the image of fast track.
Yeah. And I like the idea of the wrist as a real estate, as you have. You own this, you own the ear as a real estate, you own the, so you own Indian, you own all parts of our body.
Real estate, yeah.
So let me come to Vinay. Vinay, last question to you before we open up to the audience questions. We have, I'm told, a hell of a lot. Any other book in the making? Is there a follow-up book called Tanishq? Tanishq deserves a book, right?
Yeah. That's what Venkat told me. You haven't done enough justice to Tanishq. So perhaps a few years down the line. But as I said before, for a journalist, bad news is good news. I mean, not that I want anything bad to happen to Tanishq, but what I'm saying, the earlier Titan story lent itself to a fascinating book, the trials and tribulations, which I talked about. If it's business as normal, then, you don't really get to do a good story. But then you never know, a few years down the line, I'm sure Tanishq will go scale greater heights. There may be a different story to write. Perhaps I should revisit it in a few years.
You should. Yeah. So I look forward to reading your book. So we have
just one second, Ambi, one thing about when I were talking about the real estate on the wrist, I interviewed Omega's CEO, managing director. I forgot his name now. I'm sure Bhaskar will know.
Who's Omega?
It's also Swatch, right? Okay.
Omega is the Greek.
So anyway, so I talked.
You're talking Greek to us, yaar. Anyway, tell please.
He was wearing 2 wristwatches. So he said,
Mr. Hayek, yeah, Nicholas Hayek.
Not Nicholas Hayek. Not Nicholas
Hayek.
Not the founder of Swatch. I'm saying the guy who came to India. Anyway, I'll get his name later. So you're wearing 2. I asked him, why are you wearing 2 wristwatches? He said, because I have only one neck. I said, that was, you can wear only a tie, but I've got 2 wrists to wear 2 wristwatches. So yeah, so I mean, carry on with the questions.
Yeah, thank you. So we have 5 winners of the Starbucks voucher. Let me quickly go through them, and then the first winner is Vishwanath Kamath, and the question is, what made you write a book on Titan when there are so many other brands under Tata? Vinay, that is to you. I think you had answered it, but you can give Vishwanath the answer.
Yeah, Vishwanath. I had nothing to do with the fact that a Kamath has won the voucher there. But anyway, so Vishwanath, my answer is because I had.
ये थोड़ा GSP community हो रहा है इधर.
So I just picked up Titan
Planted
because
question, I think.
because I reported
Kamath
quite
to
a bit
Kamath,
on
K to K. Like
because I reported quite a bit on Titan during my younger days as a journalist. So I had a lot of literature interviews on Titan, and I knew the company. So it seemed a natural choice to pick as a book because I knew a lot about the company, and
Yeah.
then I talked to Bhaskar as well.
I think that's what is nice about it. This is not a book which he's been paid to write. This is a book which has actually come out of his own passion for the business and for the company. So thank you, Vinay, for doing that. So next winner of the Starbucks voucher is Krishnakant Jonal Gadda. I hope I pronounced your name right. His question is, what was the trigger in advertising that turned from emotion to social commitment, keeping brand value at heart? I mean, that's a mouthful of a question, Bhaskar. I hope you understood that.
Well, I don't know whether again that was if I mean there are if I were to go back to one advertisement which we of Tanishq, which was
Yeah.
about the second marriage, which
Yes. That
created
was
so
fabulous.
much,
Fabulous. Fabulous. Yeah.
yeah, and I believe it is not just social connect or it was the time of the day. I mean, not just the time of the day. The days were like that. People were beginning to question such mores in society. And therefore, that bit about keeping your ear to the ground is what led to those kinds of, or even fast track for that matter. I think these segments that Titan uncovered and then addressing products as well as communication specifically to those segments. Today, socially responsible advertising is the norm because you can't be socially irresponsible. It is the default option because you can't be seen to be socially irresponsible. But being ahead of your time, in some ways, Titan was, could unearth these trends, and that Tanishq ad in a way stood out at
But
that
how
time.
do you approve? How do you approve those fast track ads?
No,
Well,
They are
Bhaskar
so
the
doesn't like
best
over
them.
the edge.
answer to that question, Ambi, is best answer to that question is the team would look at me and say, if I didn't like the ad, it means it is the best ad. I mean, obviously, because guys like us, we would,
Yeah.
cringe at that fast track ad. But more than that, I think the larger question you're asking is, that kind of advertising, Tata Group, this, that, etc. I think it was a mischievous kind of positioning at that time, and it appealed to that target audience. And I'm not saying you'll do anything to for business, but it appealed. It was not rejected by that target audience. If anything, they loved it. And
They love.
i
They
i
loved it.
wouldn't pass. I wouldn't Yes, there were a couple which went beyond the Lakshman Rekha, which we had to pull back, one or two at the most. But and that's the whole point about pushing the envelope and being restless.
And something which you said earlier, right? Being close to the consumer to understand how the consumer is changing. So you're appealing to the teenagers with one brand, and you're appealing to the 35-year-old brand. These brands are very different. And why should you apply a Titan or a Tata filter to what you do? So
I think, Ambi, one
Also,
more
Ambi,
lesson in all that is,
to add,
frankly, I was never involved in those ads. It's really the way we were structured. Venkat or Ravikant or Ronnie, those people who are running those businesses, they knew the market. They would base it on market research. They would apply judgment. So you would trust their judgment, and
yeah,
it's not that, I was involved in all the advertising, rarely, much
yeah.
later,
No, I got
not at
it.
all.
also
So
Ambi,
next question.
just to
Vinay,
add,
sorry.
yeah, just to add, Fast Track never had the Titan or Tata badging. So most, by and large, the younger people wouldn't even know it's a Tata brand or a Titan brand, and they didn't
That
care.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they don't. But yeah. But fast track. Actually, there's another book there for you to write on fast track, Vinay.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
It's a very edgy brand, and it's probably several thousand crores today in terms of value, right?
Yeah.
Next question to Bhaskar. Varun Kumar is asking this question, which I think we've covered, but it's How do you manage your business during this crisis?
Well, I must say the business is being managed by Venkat and team, and during this crisis, I think they're doing a great job. They've all a typical Titan style again. People have got together. They have come up with innovative ways of making customers' life safe, employees' life safe and secure, and yet connecting with them digitally. I know that the Tanishq team has had even concerts. You know. People within the company singing for their customers, and the eyewear division bringing eyewear consultants to help people with eye care and so on. So it's been done very I'm sure many companies are doing all this, but again it's the Titan way, which is people first, customer first.
Great, and I think just to add to what you said, this crisis is going to make consumers prefer the more trustworthy brands, and I
Yes.
think in the long term, a brand like Titan, a brand like Tanishq, definitely will end up benefiting tremendously. Let me go to the next winner of the Starbucks voucher, Sheena Amin. Her question is: Titan as a brand has always attempted to create a space in the heart of all Indians across cultures. What was the brand ideology of uniting target audience against targeting a niche?
Well, I think that's a great question. Uh, I think Titan as a brand versus Titan as a company are two different, entities. Uh, Titan as a watch brand, as an eyewear brand, has targeted a certain type of customer, and if anything, in Titan started as a Titan watches brand, and has one shed itself of youth to fast track the budget customer as Sonata, the high end customer as Xylus, Nebula, etc. They are sub brands, some of them. And Titan has remained a wide appeal brand in a way to the rest. But the core appeal is still about quality, elegance, trust, dependability, and it's a very friendly brand. So it's not niche. Whereas Fast Track, Raga, and Sonata have remained very sharply focused on their target audience. Titan also has a target audience, which is the more discerning Indian and so on, very strongly Indian in its appeal. But Titan Company, multiple segments,
Yeah,
from fragrances to, skin, the fragrance, to Titan Eye Plus, to Tanera now, the silk saris.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it
There is
is across categories, but by and large the same Indian, um
Indian ethos.
Indian, the discerning Indian, the progressive Indian, and somebody much like what you said, Atmanirbhar Titan. It's very Indian in its appeal, in its thinking, and yet contemporary, international class. I mean, I can go on and on. So a few days it will take.
So we've got to the last 2-3 minutes of this, and there's a fifth winner of the Starbucks voucher, Arvindan, and I think Bhaskar spoke about it. So he's asked a good question. Titan has good brand value. In Titan's lifetime, it has invested in many brands like Fast Track, Skin. Why has Titan not invested in its own engineering company? I think you answered that. He didn't know you were going to answer it.
Yeah, I think if you're asking me whether Titan has not invested enough in by way of capital, that's one kind of question. But Titan has invested a great deal by way of people development. In fact, training. It's now a fairly large division, not that large as compared to jewelry or something, but it's still in the 500 plus crore category, very profitable. And
Wow.
ready to be leveraged, and it's got a global customer base, so it is there is still a lot that Titan will do in that space. But apart from that, manufacturing itself, Titan continues to invest in watches, jewelry, eyewear, everywhere.
Ambi,
Uh,
Ambi, Anil here. Please take another 5 minutes because there's a lot of questions.
okay, so it's
Yeah, 5 to 10
6:30
minutes
though.
at least, yeah.
Yeah. I think we promised to stop at 6:30. So those of you who want to leave can leave, but we're going to continue for another 5 to 10 minutes. Program director Anil has given me the permission. So next question is from Tanya Sridhar. There was a time when Titan had hit the ground. How did Bhaskar you stick to your conviction and predict jewelry will be a success one day?
To be frank, there was no prediction of that jewelry would become as big as this. But I think the conviction came really again from the companies, our understanding. Earlier understanding was from watches, but thereafter, as we went deeper and deeper into jewelry, we realized it's the largest consumer market in this country outside consumer products, and 250,000 crores, totally unorganized. And the bet we took really was that Indians would want jewelry for adornment and not merely for investment. So moving the customer from investment to adornment was a job, and we knew we knew as in everything was pointing in that direction. The census of 81 and the census of 91 and the census of 2001, the literacy level of women was rising. I'm talking in terms of percentage. And therefore, it was evident that women are going to be a large part of the market of the future. And Indian women are so different when it comes to jewelry. And also, much later, we realized that because of the exceptionally low margins in this business, you pay for the gold rate, today's gold rate, and a making charge. No foreign competition, unlike in watches, could handle that kind of margin. And therefore, and what did we have? We had the trust of the Tata group, and that was what kind of was the key that we could open up the jewelry.
I remember at one stage you brought the Tata product under the Tanishq brand name, right?
Yeah.
I remember about it. Yeah. So and of course, and the karat meter idea, which was again a revolutionary idea, which brought more trust to your doorstep compared to the neighborhood jeweler. The next question is again to Bhaskar from Dawal. When technology has increased so dramatically and EQ has reduced, especially when it comes to watches, how is Titan predicting the next restless and belief in buying of watches?
Well, I think I partially answered this question. I think, technology again is an enabler. Life, it's a life enabler. Your life becomes easier. It's not that emotion never goes out of the human being. I mean, you look at the COVID experience today. People are waiting. I mean, I'm in a different city today where things have opened up and people are wanting to be together, wanting to connect. And so you don't want to permanently connect through only Facebook or Instagram. You actually want to. So technology enables that to a great extent. And therefore, the company is today, I know, working on wearables in a big way. Suparna, who's heading the watch business today, has acquired this Hug Innovations, which is a wearables company, and working on wearables. So the watch business has transformed in a way from watches and accessories to watches and wearables. So the future is the combination of lifestyle and wearables, and in fact wearables as lifestyle. I would define it that way. It's not just that EQ is going out. EQ is not going out. It is being added on to EQ. You have technology which enables you to connect.
Great. So thanks, Bhaskar. That was good. Now let me come to Vinay, and this question is from Sitaram Sujir. Jewelry's early failure was in a sense blessing, and I think Bhaskar confirmed that. But has it been captured in the book in all its gory details? He didn't say that. He said, but has it been captured in the books? I'm adding my own masala.
No, Gori. Gori is Gori. Don't say Gori anymore, okay? Because Black Lives Matter and all. No Gori as in Gori Tera Gam.
Yeah.
Yes, I should think so. I should think so. If you, Sujit, if you get round to, I hope you read my book, but if you do get round to reading it, that the Tanishq chapter kind of captures the depths the company had gone through in the first 8 years of the business, and the also talks about how Bombay House, the Tata Group headquarters, were not very happy with the Tanishq business, and I think even when Mr. Desai retired, I don't think Bombay House was very happy with Tanishq, and actually I think commissioned McKinsey to actually do a study, and uh, there's a anecdote in the book where Jacob Kurian meets Irina Vittel, who is now a board member of Titan, and he thinks she's going to talk to him about the business, and her first question is, so tell me, why do you think we should close down this business? So that was quite a stunner. So it covers all that ground. It covers a crucial board meeting that Jacob, Bhaskar and all made a presentation to the board, and Mr. Ratan Tata endorsed the continuation of the business. And
Not that easy, I must tell you. When Jacob made the presentation, after he made it, we were all, waiting with bated breath, know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
because
In
we had a
fact,
whole lot. And I think the presentation went well. And he gave us 1 year saying, show us that you can make money. And then, of course, Jacob had started work on that already. And then, it's all history.
I don't know whether
it's an amazing story, right? I mean, you presented to Bombay House, and the business has been losing money for 8 years, and Bombay House gives you 1 year to turn it around. I think that is a very short fuse.
I don't think so. I think that was fair to an extent. And I remember even a wonderful person like Mr. Ishat Hussain, when I asked him, we need more money, by way of capital, and he had said, you have to earn your right to grow, which was a very, very wise statement. You have to earn your right to grow. You can't just keep, there's no entitlement of money. You have to show. See, the fairness is, can you show the margins improve? Can you show cash flow improvement? It's not that, you have to show the whole 5-year plan. Can you show a change?
That's interesting. So they said in 1 year, show us some green shoots.
Yeah.
Right? And then we'll start giving you fertilizer and water and all that, right? And then you can grow the business once again. So I think it's remarkable that this in spite of having a Bombay House factor, a Tidco factor, and all that coming together, the company has managed to succeed.
No, I must tell you that Tidco has been a great partner. There's no doubt about it. They have been, including the engineering business. Anyway, I think it's a great joint venture. We've had no problems. They let the company run, and the management almost to run the company with the promoter, setting strategies. So we've had a great innings together.
Yeah, so I think last I just need to do a bit of summing up. One is that you may be wondering why me. I'm not asked any question about the advertising of Titan. It is all there in the book how the original campaign was born. In fact, the book actually contains a picture of the first ad released by Titan. Let me locate it for you. This is the first ad released by Titan. It says Titan Quartz from Tata. It also has a story behind how the 25th Symphony of Mozart was selected by Suresh Malik of Ogilvy and Mather, and it was approved by Mr. Xerxes Desai. There's a lot of there's one chapter which is on the advertising stories behind Titan. But the fact is, Titan is a lot more than Mozart 25th Symphony. Right? Today, every villager in India probably thinks that वो टाइटन का म्यूजिक है, टाइटन का नहीं है भाई, वो मोजार्ट का म्यूजिक है. But okay, so last you want to say anything now, Vinay, before I go to Bhaskar for his last words?
Yeah, so actually talking about Mozart, all the innovations and variations and adaptations that Titan's advertising has done with Mozart's tune, I think it's there in the book. I put it in the book. Ms. Desai said I don't know whether Mozart is applauding or whether he's turning in his grave at all what you've done to his music.
Probably he's rotating at 100 RPM. Huh?
We should be happy that he's serving a whole lot of 1 billion Indians, you know. We couldn't
Yeah.
have dreamt of serving
Yeah.
1
And
billion.
amazing that tune has been Titan's music for 30 years.
Yeah, we can hum it at the end if you want. But Bhaskar, finally, what now? What is keeping you up at night other than your grandkid?
I told you I have this long list of to do things that in the next. So some of the trivial ones are to take a train from Bangalore and travel across the country, to see India as it lives. Okay, no things like that.
Bhaskar is a great train traveler.
Well, professionally, there are many things that last night I was kept awake because the board meeting started at 10 in the morning in Bombay, and therefore I had to be up at 4. But that's so one of the stories is that keep awake for several companies that I'm on. But that I think is not the bigger, let's say, engagement for me in terms of my personal life. There's a whole lot that I have talked about to my colleagues when I left. I want to learn Sanskrit and I want to learn music and, I want to go to the Manasarovar. I want to continue my trekking and I want to keep you guys entertained. Bring a smile to somebody you don't know every day.
Ambi.
Yeah.
Bhaskar, a fantastic singer as well. I think you should make him sing the Titan tune.
Yeah, you should sing the Titan tune for us, Bhaskar. Tum, parabum, parabum,
Yeah, there you've
parabum.
done it.
You do it, man. Much better.
That's
Thank
Well,
you.
Great.
well, Mozart must be turning in his grave at this.
yeah.
But Bhaskar Bhat, Vinay, Kamath, Ambi, Parameswaran, thank you so much for not just an enlightening but such a lively and interesting session. I think we learned a lot about Titan and Tanish, and we learned a lot about how it has become such a huge and successful company. A great session. Thank you so much, all three of you.
Thank you, Anil.
Thank you, Anand.
Thank you, Ambi.
Thank you,
Vinay, thank you, Ambi, and thank you for all of you participating and watching and encouraging us, and all the people who sent those wonderful questions.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.